I want to bring in my guests. We're joined with the man himself, a fan, audience favorite, Patrick Henningsen. Patrick Henningsen, let me give you a bio. He is geopolitical analyst, journalist, host of the Sunday Wire, creator of 21st Century Wire, and all-around critic of mainstream media propaganda. Patrick, welcome to the show, man. How you doing today? You doing all right?
Yeah, pretty well. Great to be with you, Jamal.
Oh, man, it's always great to have you. I would like to show you something. So this, come on, my mouse is acting up. This took place yesterday in Saudi Arabia. This is Trump shaking hands with a head chopper. That hand that he's shaking, assuming he's right-handed, has been used to chop heads off and potentially even kill Americans. I want to also show you this clip. This is also Saudi Arabia talking about Syria now that the coup that has been taking place going all the way back to the George Bush administration, even more so under Obama, who gave billions of dollars to overthrow and destroy the Syrian government, on to Trump's administration, who openly said, we're stealing the oil, we're keeping the oil, we're keeping the oil. All of these things done in order to drain resources out of Syria, hundreds of billions of dollars to destroy the Syrian government. You finally got a group of jihadis backed by Turkey or Israel, US, etc., in order to finally, after decades, overthrow the Syrian government, putting in a head chopper jihadist president. This is Trump now that the coup is over with, saying, we're lifting sanctions.
Likewise, in Syria, which has seen so much misery and death, there is a new government that will hopefully succeed in stabilizing the country and keeping peace. That's what we want to see in Syria. They've had their share of travesty, war, killing, many years. That's why my administration has already taken the first steps toward restoring normal relations between the United States and Syria for the first time in more than a decade.
You know what's wild about that? He leaves out, hey, we were putting in sanctions. We were sending in jihadists. We were doing all of this stuff to destroy the government. And now he's like, all right, shaking his hand, normalizing relations. And by the way, that's while he is there talking about how Iran is bloodthirsty thugs creating terror in the Middle East. I saw your video on this. Give me your take.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know where to start, Jamal. There's just so many different forms of wrong, from so many different angles. This is so ridiculous and so obscene and so disgusting on so many different levels. I don't even know where to begin. How do you analyze something that is just this completely? I don't really know what to say. It's let's just start with just the baseline lies. This is like, let me just give you a metaphor example. This is like if you are beating somebody on the ground and you're kicking them in the face, and then you just take your boot and you just grind their face into the concrete, and then stand back and say, "Oh, what a shame! Look at the devastation, and oh, this is just terrible violence here. Look at the blood coming out. They deserve better. They really deserve. This is so. We're going to, we're going to clean this up, and we're going to make you, whole again." Okay, this is just so disgusting. But this level of baseline lying is almost attached to each of these Middle Eastern countries. Okay, the United States is the reason why there has been devastation, starvation, why Syria has been strangled, because of Donald Trump himself in his first term. Donald Trump is the one that occupied Syria militarily. He continued and expanded sanctions on Syria in 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20. He continued to support Al-Qaeda, his government. Okay. He continued. What Donald Trump has done here in Saudi Arabia is he has completed the life's work of Hillary Clinton and John McCain in legitimizing Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and all of these Western and Gulf and Qatari-backed terrorist organizations armed by the U.S. paid for by Qatar, supported by Saudi Arabia as well, even though they're supposedly supposed to be at odds with Qatar. But on this issue of Syria, all of these countries conspired. Turkey, the United States, Jordan, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the UAE, Qatar. They all conspired to crush, to destroy, to destabilize, to ruin the country of Syria so that it would collapse from within. And it took them 14 years to do it. Okay. They hoped that they could do it quicker. They hoped that this would all have been wound up in 2013 and Giuliani would waltz into Damascus in 2013 and raise the black flag over Damascus. That was their hope, but it didn't happen because Syria, the Assad government, the Syrian Arab Army showed a lot more resilience. Russia came in to help them in October of 2015. Hezbollah came in to help them. The Iranian Quds forces came in to help them. And they managed to stave off a terrorist invasion the backing was led by the United States. The United States provided the majority of the arms, the weapons, the TOW missiles, all of these things. And they provided intelligence support, much like they're providing to Ukraine. Donald Trump did a lot of that while he was president. In fact, Donald Trump saved Giuliani. Giuliani was pinned down in 2018. There was a counteroffensive that was being launched by the Syrian Arab Army there at the borders of Idlib. And Trump boasted about this in 2019. He boasted publicly. I played the clip yesterday on my show. And he said, oh, we can't let Syria go in and kill 3 million people in Idlib. The city of Idlib with 3 million people. There's no such place in Syria. There's no city of Idlib with 3 million people. There may be normally 3 million within the province under normal times, but it was much less at that time. But there was a counteroffensive because Trump admitted there are 30,000 terrorists in Idlib. And he stopped them from being crushed. What he did was very clever. They threatened Syria through back channels with bombing everything you can imagine in Syria. Plus, they managed to promise that Turkey would come in to mediate and to take care of, quote, take care of the terrorist problem in Idlib. Of course, Turkey never did that. What Turkey did was backstop and strengthen HTS and al-Nusra in Idlib and Giuliani in Idlib because they were all on the same page. They wanted to overthrow the government in Damascus. And they eventually did in December of 2024. Just took them a whole lot longer. So Trump is continuing Hillary Clinton, continuing John McCain. Trump became the ultimate neocon this week. Trump became the ultimate neocon in the great tradition of George Bush, of Hillary Clinton, of John McCain, waving the Saudi sword, doing all the performative Gulf monarchy, worshiping at the altar of oil and gas money, and saying all this, extolling all these great virtues about the Middle East and and this is their people of the Middle East are charting their own destiny. Meanwhile, U.S. bombs are being dropped by Israelis out of U.S. planes and slaughtering Arab babies, women, doctors. They're bombing hospitals this week. As Trump was on stage, Israel was destroying a hospital, one of the last working European International Hospital in Gaza. Okay? So what the hell is he talking about? Then he goes on in this speech. It's so full of comedy gold, black comedy, dark comedy gold. He goes and says, "Oh, the Iranians. Oh, look at Iran. They don't have any of the skyscrapers that you have in Abu Dhabi and Riyadh, and because they've been stealing from their people, the mullahs are corrupt, and Iran has been under sanctions for 25 years. That's why the development has been stymied in Iran. Okay, they've been under crippling maximum pressure sanctions, increasing over a 25-year period. Actually, technically longer than that, if you count all of the sanctions back to the 1980s. So, but Iran has something that Saudi doesn't have. Iran has a space program. Iran has world-leading advances in nuclear energy, helium processing, all sorts of engineering, where they're top of the league tables. Radioactive isotopes for medical use. Iran leads in all of these Iran produces more engineers. Iran produces more female engineers every year and STEM graduates than the whole of Saudi Arabia. Okay, and the whole of the Middle East, quite frankly.
Yeah.
They're miles ahead in education, literacy, everything, despite being under U.S. sanctions designed to crush the economy, designed to crush the society. And it's a bit rich for a U.S. president to go up there in front of Gulf Arabs. And he's only there to pander for the cash. Let's be clear, okay? And then blaming somebody that they've been trying to crush, and then lying about Iran being the state sponsor of terror, while Trump himself sits there and endorses the head of Al Qaeda in Syria, former Baghdadi deputy, former number 2 ISIS. Trump, that was the ultimate humiliation for Americans. Okay, so he's either too stupid to know who he's actually shaking hands with and how many Americans he's chopped the heads off of, from Ken Bigley to Steven Sotloff and all these others, plus all the Druze that he's slaughtered, plus all the Alawites, plus all the Christians, the Shiites, and the Sunnis that Jolani has slaughtered. Okay, everybody. He's done everybody in the region except for Israel. Al-Jolani, Al-Sharar, as he's called. It's so rich. And then Trump goes on stage and continues to lie. And he says, oh, how they're treating these people in Gaza, the prison, the hostages in Gaza, these people, and he's talking about Hamas or the Palestinians, like they're torturing, raping anybody. There's no evidence that they have done any of that. But there's ample evidence, according to Israeli press and Israeli court cases, that Israel is torturing, raping, killing, murdering, starving Palestinian hostages, kidnapped off the street, 9,000 of them. 9,000 of them.
It's on video.
They don't exist. They've been wiped out. They've been othered. They've been disappeared from the conversation. So what the hell is Donald Trump, President Trump, talking about? I cannot work it out. What world is he in? He's and then the Gulf Arabs are sitting there clapping, and Elon Musk is in the background like this. It's like the Hunger Games. And then Jamal, I'm sorry, but I have to round this one
No,
off.
please go for it. I set you up for it. I wanted you to go for it. I wanted you to give me your take.
So here's the piece de la resistance of the whole sick cabaret in Riyadh. That Trump wheels out Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, who's sitting there right behind Mohammed bin Salman. And on his right bicep, he has a tattoo in Arabic that says infidel under his Armani suit. Okay. Openly hostile towards Muslims, insulting, hates them. And then proselytize publicly for building a third temple on top of Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Yep.
So that shows you the Saudis either are completely clueless and stupid about who they're holding court with. And then Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, is 2 chairs over behind MBS. And these are people that were rabidly cheering on the genocide of Arabs in the region. That's who Saudi is holding court with in Riyadh in front of the world. That's who Donald Trump brought. So you have all Zionists, people, mass murderers, openly hostile towards Muslims, hating Muslims, and they're inviting them in. And then Trump's there begging for $1 trillion in direct foreign investment, like literally begging for the cash from the Arabs. It's disgusting. So there's zero morals, all transactions, all about money, fake, lying, clout, illusions, facade. Nothing corresponds at all to reality. The only thing that was real in there was the groveling for foreign money. Yeah, because he needs that cash injection into Wall Street. He needs the liquidity from Saudi, the UAE, and Qatar to rescue the U.S. economy, which Trump is doing a pretty damn good job of wrecking right now through his trade wars and all these other, and then running scams on the side, whether it's crypto coins, rugging people with Trump coins, or the new stable coins that him and Elon and everybody else are running for themselves, so that they build the baseline of the wealth, so that they're the next Rockefeller class for the next 100 years, and to hell with everybody else who's not in the inner circle. Sorry, we'll give you a little bite, but later, after we have established the base, the ground level of this new, quote, economy. That's what these people are doing. I hate to say it, I hate to spell it out, but that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. And then supporting terrorists, endorsing, giving credibility to a Al-Qaeda head chopping terrorist, which Donald Trump, and shaking his hands and then blowing smoke up the tailpipe of Al-Qaeda, saying what a good-looking man he is.
Oh, I have
what
that
an
clip
attractive young man, and he has a very strong past.
Right here, right here.
You mean a terrorist past? Play it.
Yeah,
Go ahead and play it. Yeah.
Past chopping off the heads of Americans. Yeah, right here. This is Trump on airplane. I'm not the Qatari one. Airplane one. Listen to what he says. Air Force One.
How did you find the Syrian president?
Great. I think very good. Young, attractive guy, tough guy. Strong pass. Very strong pass fighter.
Does that worry you?
But he's got a real shot at pulling it together.
How did you?
Think about that. I mean, he's talking about an ISIS fighter, a guy who was, like you pointed out, part of ISIS.
Leader.
Yeah, ISIS leader, part of Al Qaeda at one point. I mean, whatever these interchangeable names, leader of Al Qaeda. Chop off heads. There's even video of like buses of kids where they're indoctrinating. That's the guy who he's shaking hands with. That's the guy he's a good looking guy. Strong pass. It's the strong pass part that makes it even worse, because his pass is very clear to anybody that wants to look into who this guy is. I agree with everything you said that came out of your mouth. You're absolutely right.
It's a slap in the face. Okay. It's a slap in the face to every U.S. serviceman who died or was injured or who had a family member or knew someone who died being forced into this stupid war on terror. Okay. Now, I've been protesting the war on terror, saying what a fool's errand and a disaster it's been since day one. Okay. Since 2001. Okay. I've been very vocal publicly and active on that front, saying this is a fabricated enemy. This is a fabricated facade of a fabled enemy that's been created by Israel, the United States, and their allies in order to justify major geopolitical aims and domination in Central Asia and the Middle East and so forth, and also to clamp down on our rights and personal liberties at home through the Patriot Act and NSA spying and all the things that Ed Snowden exposed in his leaks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. I've been very vocal about that. But even then, still the US government pushed men and women up to the front lines and sacrificed them under the banner of the war on terror. And Donald Trump has just slapped them all across the face, saying, screw you, you died for nothing. I'm going to make a mockery of you, your family, and everybody else who fought under this absolute lie. And here I am. I'm going to endorse the leader of Al Qaeda and the deputy of ISIS. Yep. He's still a terrorist. While Trump was with them, they were celebrating in Syria and slaughtering Alawites and Christians as they did that meeting this week.
Yep.
And here's another one. It just gets better, Jamal. Celebrations in the ISIS prisons in northeastern Syria.
Yes.
The Kurds have been guarding 9,000 of the hardcore ISIS fighters in northeastern Syria, in Hakasa, in these areas, okay? Now, the SDF, Kurdish forces and whatnot, the U.S. has been using them as a sort of major chess piece, of course, in order to keep Syria off balance and unstable and to justify the U.S. military occupation. Fine. But we're in a new chapter now. And what Trump did, and Saudi Arabia, is he just gave the green light to Jolani, aka al-Sharar, aka, quote, president, the president with no parliament that's never been elected. It's not a president. It's an insult to call him a president. And it's the first time a U.S. statesperson has recognized a military junta as a head of state before that interim government ever announced elections. So this is a big break from U.S. policy, like they're doing with Zelensky, suspending any expectation of democracy. But that said, he's just given Jolani the green light to take over those prisons now. What's going to happen to those ISIS fighters? Are they going to be released? Is there going to be a magical jailbreak? Or are they going to slowly be given amnesty? Whichever those three possibilities are, Jamal, it almost guarantees U.S. military presence in Syria indefinitely. And certainly that's what the neocons want. That's what Trump is going to get. And that's what Israel is quite happy with at the moment as well. Because everybody, the U.S. wants Syria broken up into smaller pieces. Turkey wants a piece of Syria. They want it broken up. Israel definitely wants it broken up into minimum 3 states, minimum. And the Gulf Arabs, definitely they wouldn't mind. It would be much easier to manage Syria if it was a quarter of the size of its current form, with 3 or 4 useless statelets that will never provide any challenge to anybody or anything, and ideally to get them to fight each other at some point and create sectarian, maybe have a civil war or two, and then go in, and then some glass towers in Damascus, some glass towers in Aleppo with Gulf money. And all the while this is going on, ethnically cleansing and killing the Romanian Palestinian population.
Yep.
All done with the blessing of Saudi Arabia, the blessing of Qatar, and the blessing of all the Gulf states, and of course, to the great gratitude of the state of Israel, that would like nothing more than to get rid of the native Palestinian population. And they're going to use the United States and indirectly potentially use the Gulf to make that happen, all to create progress in the region. So they'll use the crisis that they have created, this genocide in Gaza, that's created such toxicity, that's created such an overboil of problems in the region, so much so it's become an impediment to global capital to come to rush into the region. And they're all, including the Saudis and everybody else, they'll throw their fellow Arabs, which they probably don't even consider as real Arabs.
They don't care.
They consider themselves as real Arabs, but those people in the Levant, not really. They're not us. So they'll throw them under the bus. We'll push them over there. We'll put them in northeastern Syria. Jolani will create a little enclave for them up in, and we'll stick them with the Kurds up in the desert in northeastern Syria, out of the way, and then push the rest into Egypt, and Jordan will take a few, and whoever doesn't want to leave, we'll just crush them. We'll kill them. That's Israel's plan. Israel has declared total warfare on Gaza. And I've not seen any protest coming from Washington. All this spat between supposedly, Trump and Netanyahu on the outs. Well, I don't see the U.S. pushing back on anything Israel's been doing, undermining this so-called ceasefire that Trump got all this credit for, that Steve Witkoff got all this credit for in the first couple of weeks. That thing was over so quick. And now they want to finish the job in Gaza, which is destroy every last inhabitable building, every last hospital, everything. They want to get rid of them. They want to make it unlivable. And then Trump will do one of his speeches. He'll go back to Riyadh or Doha and say, there's been such terrible devastation in Gaza, and no one deserves to live like that. Look at all the rubble. Isn't that a shame?
Yeah.
Isn't that so sad? Well, these people deserve better.
Yeah.
After we've pummeled them and after we've crushed them, let's build them some nice apartments somewhere in the desert. There's plenty of space in Jordan. Or send them to Algeria or something. We'll build some lovely, beautiful, wonderful apartments, Trump will say, with little water features and maybe a golf course. We'll teach these Arabs how to play golf, and this will be one. It's going to be great. It's how obscene, how absolutely base, unseen this all is, and the lies have just reached such epic. The hypocrisy is reaching such epic proportions, and if people can't see the absolute lie, the hypocrisy, the absolute departure from civilization that we are witnessing right now. And Donald Trump is the mascot for it. He is the man to show and to finally deliver the epiphany. If you haven't received the epiphany yet, it'll be coming soon. And if you don't think it can get worse, oh, this can't get any worse. Trust me, this can get a lot worse.
Yeah.
This can get because the Arabs, the Gulf states have Trump over a barrel now. They promised 2.4 or 3 trillion in direct foreign investment between Qatar, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Okay, but they've also said we want stability. We want an Iran nuclear agreement. We want all of these things. If Trump doesn't come quick with an Iran deal, Israel could basically throw this whole narrative into turmoil with one move. And then Trump will be back to zero. In fact, less than zero at that point. Nothing you saw this week, Jamal, is set in stone.
Patrick, I will go further. I don't even know if that's not the original plan. I mean, look, I'll give you an example. Trump is supposedly in the negotiations with Iran. And yet, when he's out giving a speech, he's saying,
When I left office, the only thing still standing between this region and its unbelievable potential was a small group of rogue actors and violent thugs seeking constantly to drag the Middle East backward and into havoc, mayhem, and indeed into war. Unfortunately, instead of confronting these destructive forces, the last U.S. administration chose to enrich them and empower them and give them billions and billions of dollars. The Biden administration, the worst administration in the history of our country, by the way, spurned our most trusted and longstanding Gulf partners, and I can say partners worldwide. One of our great
What's he talking
in
about?
the middle of negotiations, supposedly, quote unquote, with Iran, while he is completely attacking Iran. I mean, it wasn't just that. Let's look for the other clip where he is just.
He's sanctioning. They put all new sanctions on Iran this week.
Yep.
So he's
Yes, they
insulting
have.
them. He's insulting them in front of the king of Saudi Arabia and the world, and they're sanctioning Iran while he's supposedly trying to do. So he's clearly undermining any goodwill. Clearly, he is U.S. president. He himself. He's taking the lead in undermining the goodwill of any negotiations. He's undermining his buddy Steve Witkoff, which shows you, Jamal, that maybe they don't want a deal.
Exactly.
Doesn't look like
Which
it.
is it. That is exactly my point. Like, I've been presenting this white hat and black hat version, that this kind of WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, of, okay, Trump is trying to get a deal. Trump is trying to do this. Trump is at odds with Netanyahu. But then when you go to Saudi Arabia and you're saying stuff like this in the middle of negotiations, by the way, when he was trying to negotiate with Russia and they would try to prod him to attack Russia, he wouldn't do it. Why? Because he was in the middle of negotiations that he wanted to work. And he knows that if you're attacking the people that you're trying to negotiate with, you're not going to get that far with it.
Mm-hmm.
Trump is taking maximalist demands for Iran that he knows is already a red line. And so you're stuck with this thing of, okay, well, does he really actually want a deal? He went there and even said, here's another clip of him.
While the Arab states have focused on becoming pillars of regional stability and world commerce, Iran's leaders have focused on stealing their people's wealth to fund terror and bloodshed abroad.
Like, what do you do with that, right? What do you do with it?
Terror and bloodshed abroad? What is he talking about? Hezbollah?
I thought he was talking about Israel at first.
Iran.
I thought he was talking about Israel. I mean, everything that he said there could easily be put at Israel. A band of thugs that Biden has been giving money to that has been committing terrorism in various countries abroad.
What's he talking about? A band of thugs? Who?
Yeah.
What is it? Al Qaeda in Syria that Biden's giving money to because you just shook hands with their leader and just endorsed him? So is it that? Trump's very clever. He's very clever and very dishonest and very deceptive. He tells stories without naming names, and he leaves innuendo into a gray area while he's in flow of his speech. So it could mean 3 different things potentially, but it's never definitive. He just kind of drifts it out there without being specific, And you could blame somebody. It could mean this. It could mean that. I mean, he could mean Hezbollah there. Hezbollah is the South Lebanese local defense force defending South Lebanon from the Israeli army. That's what Hezbollah is. And they weren't doing terrorism in Syria. Hezbollah was fighting ISIS in Syria at the invitation of the Assad government. Just like the Quds forces from Iran were fighting ISIS and al-Nusra and Jolani in Syria. They were fighting al-Qaeda. That's what the U.S. claims that they're doing in the Middle East, in Iraq, in Syria, is we're here to fight ISIS. But they do nothing on the ground to fight ISIS. Iran Quds forces, Iraqi Hashd al-Shabi PMUs, they fought ISIS on the ground. They took casualties on the ground. They dealt ISIS huge, the majority, all of ISIS's ground casualties were at the hands of Iraqi PMUs, Iranian Quds forces, and Hezbollah, not the United States. The United States didn't get involved in that. They just did air sorties, hitting empty warehouses and leveling Mosul and Raqqa and killing tens of thousands of civilians in the process, much like Israel is doing in Gaza, much like the U.S. did in Fallujah. Okay, that's what they did to fight ISIS. They didn't do any of the heavy lifting, nothing. In fact, they moved ISIS around strategically in Syria. And truth be known, Israel and the U.S. were ISIS and al-Qaeda's air force in Syria. They attacked Russian forces that were fighting ISIS. They attacked Syrian Arab army positions, as Israel did many times. Israel probably played really the de facto role of al-Qaeda and ISIS's air force in the last, 12 years, 14 years in Syria. That's beyond any doubt. And the excuse Israel used was, we're hitting Iranian and Hezbollah forces there because this is a security issue for Israel. No, it's not. You can now see everything that was done between the United States, Turkey, Israel, all of the NATO partners, all the Gulf states. Everything was done in a coordinated fashion, and Jordan, to weaken, to destroy, to undermine, and ultimately to topple the government in Syria and have the state collapse, in order to get the strategic objectives that Israel has achieved already since December, which is very, very clear for everybody to see. They stole the Golan Heights, Mount Hermon. They have strategic artillery fire over Damascus. They have strategic height over South Lebanon, and they're building a corridor through the Druze enclaves right up to Iraqi Kurdistan. And as Israel is allied with Iraqi Kurdistan, that will give them a clear path to attack Iran as and when they wish. And the U.S. will facilitate that. And that's probably why the U.S. is there as well militarily. That's why they're staying there, to help Israel achieve that goal strategically. So there's no getting around any of this. But there's another clip, Jamal, where Trump says, we hate seeing the countries in this region bomb each other. We want it to stop. We don't like that. That's after Donald Trump just got done bombing Yemen for 7 straight weeks, just last week. What the hell is he talking about? The U.S. is bombing countries in the Middle East. The Arabs aren't bombing each other. The United States and Israel are bombing countries. Israel's bombing Lebanon. Israel's bombing Iraq. Israel's bombing Syria. Israel hasn't bombed Egypt yet, but give them a week. The United States has bombed Yemen. The United States has armed Saudi Arabia to bomb Yemen from March 2015 all the way to 2022, 7 years of a proxy war that was at the behest of the United States, supplied by the United States, and done by the UAE, Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. Okay? So Trump is up there just making up his own version of reality that, these Arabs just can't stop killing each other. We're here to bring peace to the region. No. He just got done bombing Saudi's own neighbor, Yemen, for 7 straight weeks. They emptied out the U.S. arsenal, and then the U.S. basically cut and run because they were losing too many FA-18 Super Hornets, too many Reaper drones, and the Harry S. Truman's damaged, apparently. So Pete Hegseth just presided over the biggest train wreck in modern U.S. military history. And he's sitting there with his infidel tattoo in Riyadh, festooning around as our, quote, defense secretary. This whole thing is a circus. It's one epic failure and a humiliation after another. But lots of great rhetoric, great speeches. Everybody's, Elon in the background, like this. It was like the Hunger Games. I mean, it's disgusting. Elon's openly hostile against Muslims on X, and racist, and promoting hostility with his 200 million plus follower account. You got Hegseth there, hates Muslims. You got Howard Lutnick, arch Zionist, cheering on a genocide, who announced we need to crush jihad at the Madison Square Garden Trump rally. That was Lutnick. They're all sitting there with the Saudis. One big happy family. It just shows you the level of corruption. This whole thing, nothing means anything to these people.
Hunger Games is a really good example. Hunger Games is a really good example. I know the clip that you're talking about because it infuriated me when I heard it, and I responded to somebody because they were like, "Oh my God, this is Donald Trump's announcing his new vision for global politics," and I flipped out. I was like, "Are you out of your mind? He's just been killing, bombing Yemen, as you pointed out, for all of these weeks. They've been paying for a genocide. At which point did he have this quote unquote new world view of peace?" This is the clip that you're talking about. It's outrageous.
Before our eyes, a new generation of leaders is transcending the ancient conflicts of tired divisions of the past and forging a future where the Middle East is defined by commerce, not chaos, where it exports technology, not terrorism, and where people of different nations, religions, and creeds are building cities together, not bombing each other out of existence. We don't want that.
Applaud that nonsense like lemmings. You're absolutely right. It does put you in the mind of Hunger Games, where
a new generation of leaders, Jamal. What are we talking about? Theocratic autocrats,
theocracies. Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
Oil monarchs, and terrorists.
Yeah.
Is that the new generation of leaders? Al Qaeda leaders that you're sitting there boosting, Donald Trump?
Yeah.
What a slap in the face to America. I mean,
and they're just out there applauding.
It's such a humiliation. So it just shows you the people advising him and him himself are either so clueless or they're so corrupt.
I think they're sociopaths. I think they don't. I think they're amoral. Any notion of ethics, moral, I don't think they care. And just think, Tulsi Gabbard, who ran the campaign saying, "Look, we need to stop bombing in the Middle East. We're supporting terrorists." And her president that she now backs and pushes for is shaking the hand of an ISIS leader.
Yeah. And you won't hear a word from Tulsi.
Nope.
She'll keep her mouth shut.
Nope.
She'll be a good soldier because Tulsi, it seems to me, and she probably said, "Oh, I'm staying in here," and her supporters will say, "Oh, she's staying in there despite how crazy Trump is because she can do some good from the inside." Okay, maybe so, but her silence is effectively her silence on these fundamental issues is hugely damaging because she's endorsing, by her silence, she endorses everything that Trump says, which goes against basic principles and civilization, 20th modern civilization, full stop. This is what's at stake. Is the credibility of Western civilization. That's what's happening in Gaza. Make no mistake about it.
That's gone, Patrick.
I'll give you look at, you got the United States backing Israel to the hilt and attacking people who are protesting a genocide deporting students who are protesting a genocide. You have the UK backing Israel to the hilt, no questions, no reservations, unconditionally. You have France been doing the same militarily, and Germany, the third biggest provider of military aid to Israel, are aggressively arresting people protesting this in Berlin, raiding people's homes for social media posts critical of Israel. Germany, okay? You'd think Germany had learned the lessons of history, okay? But they're so ensconced in their national guilt, okay? They're so ensconced in their national guilt and this narrative in Germany. It's so toxic for their society now that they feel they have to back Israel because of the history of the Holocaust, and they have to do this to atone for their historical guilt. And the Germans, who are the top country in Europe, are willing to atone for their historical guilt, to atone right down to the last Palestinian life. So what does that tell you about Western civilization? If Europe is the titular head of Western civilization, then this is proof that Western civilization is a total failure. At least the post-World War II, liberal world order, liberal international world order is a total failure. The Genocide Convention, the Geneva Convention, the United Nations, the Human Rights Council, all UNICEF, all of these things constructed to prevent the crime of all crimes, genocide. Not only useless, but these countries, these post-World War II leaders of Western civilization are attacking dissenters, trying to stop the crime of crimes.
Yes.
So on every level, it's a failure. And they wonder why people are losing faith in institutions. And they say, and our government's answer to that is more censorship, is more regulation, is more speech control, is more deplatforming, more centralization of power. That's their reaction to it. That's their reflex to it. It's a complete failure. And where we don't have one leader to speak of, save but maybe a couple somewhere, maybe a few positive voices we're hearing in Ireland or some countries.
Spain, Pedro, I forget
a little bit in Spain. And everybody is just completely browbeaten into this compliance position, and so corrupt, and unbelievable. So,
Patrick, everything that has come out of your mouth today has been God's truth. It really has. There's nothing to add to it. I mean, you're absolutely right. You said losing credibility. You mean lost credibility. We've paid for that. In the United States, 70% of what Israel was using, we paid for. That was under Joe Biden, even more under Donald Trump. And as you point out, as he's making the speech, as people are clapping, as he's talking about Iran, he's talking about Hamas, he's ignoring the fact that Israel has just murdered over 100,000 people, 2/3 of which are women and children. And Netanyahu was going out giving his own speech while Trump was giving a speech saying, this is all out war. This war is not stopping. We're going to kick them out. They're not coming back. We're going to destroy all of the buildings. We're going to do all of this stuff. Effectively, we are flattening this place. We're bombing hospitals. We're starving them because we don't want them to come back. If you feed them, they may come back. If you have a hospital, they may come back. We don't want them to. That's the entire goal. That's the entire point. You're 1,000% correct.
Those lives, and just even giving lip service to decency, that used to mean something. It really used to. Even Joe Biden, as senile and absent-minded as Joe Biden was, okay, and Trump's always the worst president in the history of the United States. Maybe that's true, but even Joe Biden wouldn't platform the leader of Al Qaeda. But Donald Trump would. Donald Trump would. And that really, people should think about that. Think about that. Where is Trump morally? Where is he ethically? Does he care about anything? Or is this just all a big Is it? Or
It's a show.
he's more absent-minded than Biden, or either that, or he's so morally vacuous that he is the epitome of pure, unadulterated corruption. Which is it?
I think he's more vacuous, frankly. Patrick Henningsen, man, fantastic spot, man. Thank you for this. Geopolitical analyst, journalist, host of the Sunday Wire, creator of 21st Century Wire, critic of mainstream media propaganda. Check him out. This is just the taste of Patrick. Thank you for this, man. Damn good spot. I appreciate you.
All right, take care, Jamal.
You have a good one. Be